I want to talk a little bit about a concept that's been rattling around in my head for years now and just verbalize this. I think this is a thing that we all have some intuitive understanding of, but saying it out loud and verbalizing it oftentimes helps bring clarity to this kind of thing. And that is that a story, if we're writing fiction, if we're reading fiction, that a story is a process and that it doesn't take place all at the same time. You can write a book and hold a book physically in your hand, all in one place, all in one time. That is a physical object. But the story within that book is necessarily a sequence that takes place throughout the passage of your own time as you read that book or as you watch that movie. The the best metaphor for this is a song. I could write a song and write the notes out on a piece of paper and write the lyrics and hold that physical object up, but that's a representation of the song. I could record it into a music file and put it on a phone or on a CD and have a physical object, but that's again a representation that's transcribing this song into some digital format or into some ink on paper format. The actual song itself is a sequence of notes that take place one after another. They can't all take place at once. So, any given moment, if you're watching your wristwatch tick the time by as you're listening to a song, you can't experience a whole song at once. Any given moment, you're only experiencing that one moment of the song. As you read through a novel, any given moment, you're just in that one place in the novel, which means every time you read through that story, it's necessarily different. Different conditions from when you started it and the time that you're reading it, and you know what happened before. So that story, maybe it's a verbal story that's told, and it takes 15 minutes to make your way through it. In our era of having files on computers and YouTube videos on the internet and songs that we can point to in a list or physical books that we can hold in our hand, we oftentimes think that these translated representations, these physical manifestations of these process sequences are the actual thing, but it's not. So the thought that I'm trying to articulate, that I want to verbalize, is the song is separate than the physical translated copy that's on paper. The story is separate from the book. I can hold the book in my hand, but the story can't take place all at once, isn't all in one place in time, isn't all in one location, isn't all at one point in time. When we write, when we consume media, when we read stuff, when we watch things, when we listen to music, um, that movement of that sequence is an intrinsic part of it. When you listen to some classical music song or some, you know, pop punk or whatever kind of music you listen to, and it starts in one place and it brings you through the chorus and the bridge into someplace else. When you read a story and you're introduced to the characters and then they go on some spectacular journey, that sequence of this happens, then this happens, then this happens, as the reader experiences one thing after another, contextualizes the next sequential thing in that and builds from that, but is separate, isn't simultaneous to the earlier thing. That might sound like deep philosophical fluff to some people, but I think it's an interesting thing to realize and to understand. A song isn't all of the notes. A song has to be stretched out in time. A story isn't all of the words. A story has to be stretched out in time. So understanding that makes us write stories a little differently. Understanding that means we're going to think about what our audiences are doing right now, are experiencing right now, are thinking right now, are feeling right now, and that will inform what they will feel next. And be informed by what they experienced just antecedent to that. Um, so yeah, a little sliver of philosophy that fell into my head one day. The story is separate from a book. And although a book can be held in your hands, a story is never in one point in time. A song is separate than the CD. And although you can hold a CD in your hands, that song has to be played throughout time. So consider that when you're writing your next story. And if you have interesting examples or questions or comments about this, please add them below, because the more we continue these conversations, the better all of our writing will be and the more we'll enjoy all of it. So thank you very much.